Okay, so welcome everybody to our first webinar of the year. It's been a little bit of a crazy show as we all get going, I'm sure. Lots of changes, lots of movements going on, but the one thing that doesn't change is our ability to connect with all of you out in the community. So we wanted to kick the season off with a little bit of a overview of the coach development pathways, reviewing the power of coaching. As coaches, believe it or not, we have the ability to make or break an athlete's day, an athlete's career. For the most part, we're there well-meaning and well-intended, but it's always good to kind of, do the checks and balances and put the little reminder in the back of the mind of, what could I do better, and have that little opportunity for some self-reflection. So it's kind of the initial part of the presentation. So we'll look a little bit at professionalism and coaching today. We'll go through the pathways and any of the pathway updates that have gone on through the summer. I know most of you have now been into the new coach registration site. We needed to move sites this year because of a failure of the other past old database. So we really had a double boot, to pull and to put on and get everything put together for this season. With that being said, the end of the presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about coach health and wellness, and something that I think that we need to remember as coaches as we move into this season. So this is just a little bit of an introduction on a number of different topics, but also covers some of the content that we are covering within our coaching courses currently that may not be available to you if you're not taking a course. So without further ado, get going. So as always, it's a collaborative system here in Coach Education, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our partners and the time that they contribute towards putting some of the resources and reference materials and supporting all of you within your individual provinces. Without our partners, we would not be able to successfully reach you or provide you with the tools that you need in order to give the best opportunity for your athletes. Moving into quality coaching. So quality coaching doesn't happen by accident. It requires being mindful and being diligent, thinking about the details that need to go in, relentless planning. I know that we all feel like we're relentlessly planning at the moment in our current situation, but that relentless planning and that drive to continue that relentless planning needs to always be there so that we can always give the primary concern to maintaining the athlete health and well-being, as well as our health and well-being. And then looking at the three different components that are required for us to kind of pay attention to when we're designing these programs and becoming supportive in the environment. We have to think about context, is a good contextual fit. What I program for a 5th stage athlete is going to be way different than what's written down for a U6 athlete. So we want to think in terms of, quality-wise, what we need to fit for the different age group and the different stage. How many years have they been training? What is their training age? Essential coaching knowledge. That's kind of the fundamentals. We know that we've got skiing skills, we've got stance and balance, fore, aft, lateral balance, platform, position, top of the turn, middle of the turn. Yeah, we kind of know in skiing what our essential coaching knowledge remains, but we always have to remember to, dig deep and take a good look at the fundamentals before we hit the snow. And then athlete-centered outcomes, making that connection with our athletes so that they can become more confident in the skills that they perform, and they can perform them more consistently. So that would enable them to, continue to further along in their journey. Coaching knowledge components. So the main components are that interpersonal, professional, and interpersonal components. So basically, this is the foundation of essential coaching knowledge. So this is where we want to come through, and we want to look at what we bring to the table. Each one of us brings something different. I bring a few skill set items. Mark Newton, who's here with me today from Alpine, he brings another different complementary set of skill sets to the table. And together we can work together to build the athlete and the program so that we can actually become more successful in developing that athlete. When we look at professional knowledge, at a minimum, professional knowledge is knowing the sport-specific rules, the safety issues, anything that we need to be looking for, mandatory requirements that we need to complete as coaches in order to do our role, to work with children and work with athletes, and then understanding, our sport, becoming a student of our sport, where we actually spend time engaging, learning about our sport, not only about just how to perform our sport, but also a little bit around the culture, where it comes through, how we can ignite the passion, who are the sport heroes in Canada, who are our athletes, how can we get them front and center with our young athletes as coaches. We could take that flag and we can run with it. We could say, yeah, hey, by the way, did you see this run from Erin in training over the summer? And you could play that with your athletes this fall and kind of get them fired up and talk about her position on her skis and all that. And then they can tie the visual to what they're doing. So really creating that direct tie and that experience, and using your professional knowledge to break down what the expert athlete is doing so it can ignite the younger athlete. Teaching and learning. We are teachers. So despite the fact that, we say we're coaches, teaching is really at the heart of coaching. We have to know how to teach a skill. We have to know how to describe it. We need to be able to know how to walk through the steps. We need to help the athlete work on their skills and their ability to troubleshoot. Having the athlete learn how to troubleshoot and teaching them some the skills of, okay, how did that feel? How did that feel? What happened there when you made that decision? Having them begin to engage in that process is really key. Combining the teaching moments with some deliberate practice time is great. That's when you can simplify it down to some easy feedback cues, and you're not spending that much time actually breaking the skill down. Oops. Competition coaching. That's another professional skill set that we need. Competition day, the nerves run. Athletes' nerves run, coaches' nerves run, officials' nerves run. We've got a clock, we've got time, we've got a start time, we've got a finish time. You know what? We're in the racing business. So we kind of need to, as coaches, we need to know our athletes. We need to know the event that we're going to. We need to have everything kind of checklist before we go. And we need to test it out before we go. So have like a race simulation event, or, kind of a dress rehearsal prior to coming to the big show. And the big show may be for U6 or U8 or U10, racing against head-to-head with the neighboring club. For U16, it may be going to U16 nationals. For a FIS athlete, it's probably going to NORAM or nationals. So thinking of ways that you can kind of, prepare the athlete and yourself before going. And then during, learning the skills, how to monitor the athlete's performance and intervene, and how to examine, so study what's going on, helping the athlete examine how they're feeling, how they're experiencing the competitive experience, being able to encourage them and educate them. So work through with them on areas where at the end, you can encourage a post-competition rest, recover, and reflection. So actually having them complete a reflection and then you debriefing with the athlete is pretty key and helps for the next time that they go to the next big competition. They're actually able to process things and get going. Interpersonal knowledge. This is the other component to quality sport coaching. So we're thinking in terms of, our awareness of how we can coach each individual athlete and how we can work with others in the sporting environment. So it's mostly associated with that emotional intelligence, our ability to monitor and control our emotions, our ability to kind of read and then take that transformational leadership role and work to communicate and contribute positively to the coach-athlete relationship, but also to the relationships that you as a coach have with the officials, the administrators, and also the parents. Parents are pretty big, and I know definitely we just talked about competitive coaching and the competition day. And competition day can get really, really heated, and that connection and that emotional intelligence that you can harness and create that positive experience despite maybe the race is delayed or we've got a lot of snow to push, etc. Parents are like, well, my son or daughter is starting this at this time and the course wasn't that good. Flipping it around and turning it into a positive versus a negative is showing that transformational leadership with the whole community. Emotional intelligence. So coming back to this component again, thinking in terms of how we identify our own feelings and the emotions of others. So we want to know how we perceive emotions, but we also want to look at inside at our own. We want to use the emotions to improve attentional focus. So we want to use those emotions so we can direct the focus to where it needs to belong. And we can help do direct decision making and also problem solving. Understanding emotions. We want to recognize the cause of emotions and how emotions influence the behaviors of others. So, and then managing emotions, that comes to that controlling emotions. And then with athletes in general, as a coach, we're there to help support them to learn how to manage their emotions, because a lot of times the heart will want to take over what the mind has to say. Transformational leadership. So our ability to, athletes really rely on us for leadership. And what we want to do as coaches is really to empower the athletes. So that's where it comes into being more of a transformational leader versus a transactional leader. Transactional comes back to almost like when you're training a dog, for instance. You want to get the dog to sit, and the dog knows that when they sit, they get a treat or a cookie. That's transactional. That's not what we want in coaching. In coaching, we want transformational, so where we actually empower the athletes and the other coaching staff that we work with by building their confidence and allowing them to take ownership of the sport experience. Can you do that with a younger age and an older age? Of course you can. For instance, you're with a gliding start or skiers essential athlete. We're looking at U8, U10. Just asking them, hey, what's your favorite run? And then all of a sudden they pop up with their favorite run. You'd be like, all right, we'll hit that today. Thanks for giving me some feedback. Now they're owning a little bit of that on-hill experience by saying, hey, you know what, the coach, they're letting me, help decide where we're going to go and what we're going to do. They're part of the process. So that transformational experience is inviting people in to become part of the process and really embracing them. To keep flipping here. The next one is that interpersonal knowledge. So we have to know ourselves and how we can sustain improvement efforts. We have to have a clear sense of purpose and core values, and we have to strive for continuous improvement. Performing at our best requires us to constantly reflect and update our coaching strategies. The way we coached in the early 90s is some of the things are the same, a lot of the things are different. The way we approach an athlete, the way we communicate with an athlete, the way athletes prefer to be communicated with, it's changed over the years, and for the better. For us as coaches, we need to understand our purpose and our why. What's our purpose? Why are we coaching? Why are we here? Thinking in terms of the same thing that the athlete is looking for when you ask the athlete to perform a drill. Well, coach, what's the why behind it? What's the purpose? So just stripping everything back to as simple as a purpose and a why, and having that purposeful activity combined in, and then reflecting on it, and then having that critical reflection. Did it work? Did it not work? And there's going to be times when the why isn't as clear. There's going to be times when you're like, yeah, you know what? I think this might work, and I might experiment. But be honest with your athletes and say, hey, I think this is going to go well. Let's test it out. Here's honestly things that could go wrong, the pros and cons. What do you think? That's inviting them into the conversation. That's giving them a little bit of the why you're choosing to do something a little different, a little more creative, and then gaining that, creating that relationship. The other part of it is that when you go to admit failure, like, you know what, that course didn't work, that drill didn't work, not your fault, my fault, we'll keep continuing to charge forward. Which ties all the way back into ski racer-centered outcomes. So we're looking at developing competence in the sport-specific skills, technical, tactical performance, and then resulting in improved health and fitness and the creation of healthy training habits. If the athletes are competent in those key areas, that will help increase confidence in their self-belief, their ability to be more resilient when things aren't going as best as they could, increase mental toughness, and develop a sense of positive self-worth. Connection. That's where we create that positive bond. So as I was discussing before, inviting them into the relationship, hey, let's try this drill this way. I think this is what's going to work, what's not going to work. And then going along with creating that connection. So that partnership. A coach and an athlete should be a partnership, but it should be a positive partnership. Character, and that's developing respect for the sport, and working with athletes to develop their ethical and morally responsibility. You know, what's a good citizen? Good people. So when we look at the 4 C's, this is directly out of the Safe and Sport training, which I believe all of you who are here have probably taken already. This was something that was pretty important when we were developing the Safe Sport training, in that we weren't just talking about everything that needed to be covered that as it related to safe sport, but this was the initial step forward as to how you can provide tools to coaches. I have put the PDF link in the chat box as well. This is on the LTAD site, as well as in the Safe Sport training tools. Contextual fit. So we know we have to adapt one's coaching knowledge to specific needs of the skier. And I think this photo of Val just out with another athlete. She was out doing some return to snow work at the end of last winter. And you can see she just, hey, hold on to my ski poles. So she adapted it. She was communicating it with the athlete, and it's pretty awesome to see. So you've got a World Cup athlete and you've got an athlete that's just learning how to ski. Just thinking in terms of the ways that we could adapt it, so our drills and our skills, pretty easy. When we think about the skiing technical skills, we could really think about probably 10 to 15 core skills at the most. And then within each one of those skiing skills, they could apply differently. So we could apply the skiing skills to timing and coordination. We could apply the skiing skills to stance and balance, fore-aft balance, lateral balance, rotary, you name it, edging and pressure. So you could kind of work so that it all kind of combines together, but you have those 10 key components, and then you adapt them for the context for which you're in. Alignment with the ACA LTAD. So one key component within our coach development pathways that when we rebuilt a lot of our graphics this year, is we included, I would say, enhanced alignment with the LTAD. And I took it a little bit one step farther to help provide a little bit better context. So when we look at the entry level coach and we're looking at igniting the spark, U8, U10, we want to form the foundation. We can kind of look at some key competitions. We can look at the number of days that we would have available on snow. We can look at their actual age classification. But then we also should be able to look at their training age along those same lines. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a roadmap coaching wise. So you can kind of look, what level do I want to coach at? What level am I coaching at? And what are some target key competitions that I might want to prepare an athlete for, that I would like to communicate with the parents, with my club. Really, you're looking at the foundation to inspire. The DL coach, you're really looking at the DL level. You want to build capacity. You want to continue to bridge building capacity as you enter the performance level. And as the athlete exits the performance level and enters the podium pathway, we want those athletes to have the requisite skills, the capacities, the engine in order to excel and execute. And so when you look at the alignment, it is a stepwise progression. The benchmarks are really there within the LTAD pathway itself on the site, but we've never really tied it that closely to coaching before. I know that coaches get angst at times, and program directors, where they rank pay based off of, or salaries based off of the coach accreditation level. It's great, but at the same point, you want to have your coaches be experts at the context that they're in. We need expert coaches that are there, that are experts at inspiring and igniting the spark with the young as aspiring athletes and the families. And then at the development level, we need experts that are willing to jump in, study, growth and development, maturation, cognitive development, along with progressing the drills and taking skiing skills and applying them in a tactical environment. So that's really, you need experts at each one of the levels. So there's no real one level trumps the next level. Each level, as you can see from this graph, simple, requires a different level of experience and a different expertise. Which that's how we ended up with a new graphic for a development pathway. So there may be, I'll take a pause here. Mark, do we have any questions at all? Okay, I'll continue on. So with our development pathway, when I remapped it out, we put the LTAD stage is on the left, and then as you move across to the right, you'll see a targeted professional development. You'll also see NCCP modules that are sandwiched in the middle. And you'll also see that targeted professional development actually includes the majority of the NCCP modules. So in the past where it's been, okay, I'm EL, I do this, and that, we're encouraging coaches to take the NCCP multi-sport modules at any time. It gives you a good foundation for coaching, for developing athletes, grassroots to high performance. You can progressively work through it at any time. Anything that you pick up, nutrition-wise, basic mental skills, breaking down the teaching of fundamental movement skills, can easily be integrated into the on-snow environment. So we really wanted to promote that with the new graphics and say, you know what, awesome. You take the ACA training module to get your feet wet in ski coaching. Then after that, you've got your NCCP modules to support your sport-specific training. Then you take your evaluation, and you're always looking to take targeted development. And targeted development can be based off of what you're looking or seeking to get, off of what you've done with your own self-reflection and your own self-audit. So you may look at it and go, you know what? I'd like to learn a little bit more about speed. So targeted professional speed concepts. I'm going to take the speed concepts module. That's sport specific. But the other coach may come along and they may say, hey, I want to work in the para world. Awesome. Let me see what it's all about. Boom, take the coaching athletes with a disability module. It's there. It gives you that foundation. Take the para Alpine e-learning module that is in development and in translation. So opening up those doors. Ski cross module, learning more about movement over terrain. The ski cross modules have been rebuilt this year. So we actually included content related to movement over terrain skills all the way down to a U6 and a U8. So it's really kind of revamped quite a few things this year. So it's more open, and taking the knowledge is always there. It's always free. It's easy to do. It's the evaluations is when where the line is actually drawn. And the line is actually drawn by the NCCP. So you have to actually be working in the context for the evaluation that you're looking to complete. So if you're looking to complete a performance level certification at the PL level or old level 3, you actually need to be working in a year-round U16 competitive program. So last year U16, which would have been the old FIS athlete before the age change. If you're looking at the DL, you'll want to be working with U16, U14, U12 athletes. And for EL, you want to be the expert U12 and below. So it's kind of divided that way, and that's where the context-specific tie-in relates to the LTAD. It is something that is nationally driven, and we've just worked to fit it the best within our sport. So nationally driven, this is where we do. It's one national certification program that does follow the LTAD and the Sport for Life materials. There are 3 coaching context streams. There are 5 core competencies: problem solving, valuing, critical thinking, leading, and interacting. And all of these are woven into the training modules and into our materials. Then there are the 7 outcomes. And the 7 outcomes are basically, they're presented in every evaluation. So on the LTAD site, if you go to Coach Pathways and you click down into entry level, development level, performance level, you'll actually be able to see the actual evaluation form and how the 7 NCCP outcomes have been tied into that evaluation form. And then coming into the certification pathway, coaches come in. Coaches with previous coaching experience and education are recognized when competence is demonstrated. So for instance, we can have a coach come in, foreign coach come in with experience and education and go straight to certification. But they have to be working at that context. So if a coach comes over from France and they have a CART Pro, where they've done all the years of training and instructing, and they've been evaluated on that, they come here, they could be a PL coach, but they cannot take the evaluation unless they are working with a competitive U16 and above program. So that's where it kind of gets, you have to be evaluated, and you can go straight to evaluation. You just have to be in the right context. Let's see. Okay, Glenn. In a situation where a coach's home PSO is unable to offer the training, will ACA be able to facilitate the coach to take this in another PSO? Yes, that can happen. All the course calendars will be posted on the SnowReg site. So you'll be able to access the calendar there, and all courses should be open to all coaches in the country, not PSO specific. So when we look at the entry-level coaching context, and we tie the context back into what we just talked about, what we looked at. Let me just move this chat box up here. We're looking at the athlete experience, and we're looking at being able to perform the fundamentals, basic practice design, age-appropriate drills, awareness of an athlete's attention span and cognitive abilities. The new plan of practice materials that have been updated in the PL course have been updated to enhance the EL coach's introduction to developing basic athletic abilities. So we actually introduce a little bit of the developing basic athletic abilities at the entry-level coach course, so that we can actually give them the tools so they understand specifically what the attention span is, what's their physical capabilities, what are their limitations energy system wise, how many breaks, how long should I go, etc., etc., etc. So basic fundamental level, but also ties back into safe sport. Thinking about, all right, when do most accidents happen? At the end of a day for a beginning skier, usually on the last run or the second to last run that they were thinking about taking. They're like, oh, we'll just take 2 more. And yeah, lo and behold, that 2 more was probably 1 more than needed to happen. So that's where we've tied a little bit of that material in. That came from a national revision committee group, where we really looked at, sport safety isn't about the athletes and maltreatment, harassment, bullying, and abuse. It's also about the environment and being cognizant of what the athlete can tolerate physically and mentally so that they can recharge the next day and be able to come back and execute the sport skills that we're looking for them to execute. So in the entry-level trained, as I mentioned, the graphics have been revamped. In the past, the graphics through the pathway used to run vertically. Now they run horizontally. They run horizontally because we're part of the NCCP. Everything is context specific. The context specific switch happened in 2003. So it's 2020 now. We can definitely follow the context specific diagrams and start to develop those sport experts at each one of the levels. The development level coaching context. So coming back up, this is where we're going to set the vision. So we're going to set the vision for the individual athlete development pathway. And we not only do we set the vision with the athlete themselves, we try to set the vision with the parents and the key stakeholders. Oftentimes at the development level, we're also juggling school. So we have to kind of set the vision of how do we incorporate all the ancillary components that goes into an athlete's bucket: school, social, physical and mental health and wellness, sport-specific training that they need to do, lot of family time. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we understand the vision that we need to get to, and then we need to take into consideration at the development level all the different components that could come into play. At the DL level, we need to begin to understand and have an appreciation for the sports sciences and how, that's just basic sports science, basic, physical conditioning principles, nutrition, hydration, what happens if an athlete's dehydrated? What happens when an athlete forgets to drink and it's really cold and it's a humid cold? How dehydrated does an athlete get? Hey, well, no, it's kind of a human cold. How could they really be becoming dehydrated? Well, physiologically, it happens. It happens really fast. So getting the knowledge there so you know how long to go outside, when to take breaks, all that, pretty important. And the physical differences. So this is where understanding growth and maturation comes into understanding a little bit of that sports science. And there's plenty of tools out there. And in the LTAD, there's a lot of good reference material on how you can monitor and evaluate a ski racer's training and competition while they're going through puberty or that peak height velocity time period, where they are growing the fastest. So thinking in terms of creating the environment, so you'll see the difference between the development level and the entry level is the fact that now we've got coaching at the learn to train developing stage, foundational ski racing skills and tactics. Now we're really starting to focus on, getting down to racing. And this could be tactics in speed, ski cross, para, alpine, parallel, you name it. They're still experiencing it all, but we're still giving them a variety of environments where they can start to test their technique tactically in a bunch of different tactical environments. This is why you'll actually see that we want to create those environments. And at the DL Advanced Certified level, we're looking for them to incorporate, a ski cross environment, a para alpine environment, how to design that sport program that actually supports the athlete transitioning their technical skills into a tactical environment. Managing the race program, the U16 and U14 level, important to really realize that you got to manage it and managing cost. So when you're creating these wonderful programs, it's not just about the cost, but it's also about the experience. So managing the experience, managing the expectations, etc. So really in each one of the pathways, there's next steps depending upon what the coach would like to do. At the development level, DL certified is required to enter the performance level course. And this is a big change for this year. Performance level foundation course is the old PL Intro 2 course, where we talk about the sports science aspect. So you could see there's a lot of what the PL Performance Foundation course would cover in the DL Advanced, but it's contextually written and programmed for the U16 athlete. If this coach is wanting to go in and coach the FIS level, that's when you switch into the performance level context, where we start looking about the ski racer's transition. And as the ski racer transition, we're coming into building the ski racer. So we're building the competitor. We're not just building a ski racer, we're building a competitive ski racer at this point at the performance level. And the athletes, they want to get better. They've chosen this sport. They've chosen this journey. This is what they want to do. The commitment to training, the commitment to funding is significantly increased. So the commitment on the coach's behalf of being detailed and planning relentlessly has to be there. We have to be there, and we have to always, think 2 steps ahead, always have plan A, B, C, D, E, and even all the way up to plan Z or plan AA for this matter. And the way we could become more agile in our planning and adaptation is by experiencing coaching at this level. So as I flip to the performance level context, and we can see the steps from moving from performance level trained to performance level certified, you'll see that all of the NCCP modules are required before you take the Performance Foundations course, including the Developing Athletic Abilities course from NCCP. Then you come into the Performance Foundation course, and then that's when we come in and add in performance planning, managing a sport, the periodization, annual training planning. This is where we actually take components of our individual performance plan that we've been revising at the national team level, and we integrate it into the curriculum at this level. So this is kind of really what I've been working on, is integrating it here. And then what are the components of the IPP that I can integrate into that development level advanced certified gradation, so that we can give the coaches the exact tool set that they need at the appropriate context. Once you've gone through and you have all the foundations done, then you come to the daily training environment in the performance level. How long should it take? Really, to move from performance level trained to performance level certified is probably at a minimum 2 years, if not 3. You need to spend time with boots on the ground, in the environment, in the field. You need to have that opportunity to fail. We all fail. We all make mistakes. We all raise our hand and go, sorry, I didn't realize when I said that or I did that, whoa, that was not great. I won't do it again, kind of thing. But at the performance level, experience matters, and you want to be able to have a good amount of experience or enough experience under your belt when you take your first certification evaluation. With that, it's also important to have a mentor. And I think that's important for the development level and the entry level coaches as well. A lot of clubs are starting to create mentorship opportunities where coaches can cross over, mentor, see the next level. Coaches from the upper level can go down to go work with the athletes at the gliding start level, kind of begin to see the entire pathway and the flux, and how what you do as a coach at the entry level may have an end result at the performance level when the athlete's in a FIS race later on in their career. What we do at each one of the stages as coaches matters, and it all does tie together. So that's kind of really important, that you take the time to gain the experience, but then you also take that experience back down and you share that. You share what you've learned and move forward from there. The performance level advanced certified is actually the NCCP advanced coaching diploma. This is in a draft approval process right now. For anything above performance level certified, I actually run all the documents, and the curriculum goes through OTP, as well as CAC and the COPSI network, or the CSI network, because they're the ones that run the advanced coaching diploma. So we work to evaluate, did we do enough pre-course work in performance level trained, performance level certified, that the coach is ready, and then they come into this program. Is it going to fit to launch them into a high performance coaching role, should they want to? So when we roll into high performance coaching, we really look at 8 different key areas. Coaching and technical leadership is one of the main buckets as it relates to sports strategy, and it's a very important bucket as it relates to sports strategy. Believe it or not, we're here to try to be on the podium on the world stage. So really, we've got to have great technical coaching, technical leaders in place in order to really help springboard the athletes. But we need good coaching, technical leadership as the athletes are developing along the pathway as well. So it works. High performance coaching, yeah, everybody contributes to the high performance coaching paradigm. It's just in this specific area, this is where we start becoming technical gurus. We look at tactics to minutia. We look to see where we've got adaptability. We have to be extremely adaptable in our planning. A World Cup race could change a venue. World Cup race could change dates. All of a sudden, it snows too much. And guess what? We just lost that race. And we're going to have to move a different venue. Those are some of the things that people don't talk about in the high performance world. High performance just isn't wearing a national team coat and being on a hill. It's you're down in the ditches and you're digging some trenches. Sometimes you're on a plane and you're on the last row of the plane next to the washrooms, and you're on that plane for 14 hours with a mask on your face, but you're there and you're being adaptable to be there and give for the athletes. And it's not all the glitz and the glam. It's not Hollywood. It's really being that, a generalist, but also being a specialist. You're a specialist in becoming, you've fine-tuned or honed your skills. You've got great communication. You can communicate to your staff and your athletes, your integrated support team. You have enough science background so you can actually effectively communicate with a strength and conditioning coach, a physiologist. If you have a return to sport athlete, you grasp enough that you could talk to the physio and say, hey, well, guess what? Maybe can we do this with the athlete instead of plan A? Can we alter plan A so that we can keep the athlete on snow, but yet not push the injury too far? High performance coaches have visions, and then really sit down and spend a lot of time planning. The planning and the amount of planning that goes into thinking about a quadrennial, or for this instance, looking 5 years down the road, when we look at, yep, we've got 2022, but then 2026 is 4 years later. So you're always looking not only at the current major event that's coming up, but the next major event in that next 5 years. So it's definitely quite the job, but it's also can be quite rewarding as well. And you do feel like when you get the little wins and you've done all your homework and you've dotted all the I's and you've crossed all the T's, and the athlete's standing on the podium, you're like, whoa, things came together. And it comes together for everybody, but that high performance coach is able to bring that group of coaches and athletes together to help elevate the athlete and also help the athlete work through hard spots as well. Moving on to the number one question. What's my certification? Where's my license? Where are the records? So we went through a little bit of, kind of the prospects of what's out there in each one of the different levels and continuing pathways, opportunities for everyone on the call for growth. So where do we start? We look back at our certification, and there's two ways to do it. We can look at coach.ca, and you can look in your new Snow Ridge membership profile. The Snow Ridge membership profile, we are actually uploading the last of the data from the locker. Usually every week we load about 6,000 to 7,000 coach records to the database. We have to put it in small chunks at a time. Otherwise, this new platform would move too slowly, or we might actually just suck all the bandwidth out of it and nobody could log in anymore. So as I'm learning in the IT world, because I'm not really from the IT world, I'm learning to have patience. It's like, why can't this be done? I want this all to be fixed now. You guys said it would. So be patient with that. They're working through a lot of things, but just doing a quick review of your transcript on the locker at coach.ca and a quick review of all your coursework that's already been loaded into the new platform. You'll notice that there's probably a lot of things that are going to calculate pretty quickly in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So you'll start seeing things pop up. Usually every week we, as I mentioned, we update about 6,000 coach records. We imported 38,000 coach records in all in less than 3 months' time into a new platform. So things have changed this year. What do you have to do to be able to coach? So there's the registration fees. Pretty simple. If you're a dual member, you pay SnowPro. Single member, just Alpine Canada member, you pay on the Snow Ridge site. You need to sign all the waivers, complete the criminal background check, and this has changed. So in the last year, for instance, we had about a 50% compliance rate with having a current background screening on file. This year, in order to make things easier for us and also for you, because there's only, if I had $30,000 to create a system that would automatically send every coach an email when their background check expired, that'd be awesome. I don't. So money could be spent in coach development versus technology development. The criminal record checks have to be valid from August 31st of 2020 to August 31st of 2021. If not, you'll need to complete a new one, and then that new one is good for 2 years. So as long as you're current, you're good. So you'll either do it, you'll renew a criminal background screen this year if yours expires somewhere in the season this year. If not, you'll renew it the following season. So it's on a every 2-year rotation. It's set up, it's working quite well. Instead of 50%, we're at 82%, and there's a couple glitches with that. So I think we're actually on track to actually checking off that box. Coaching Code of Conduct Agreement, you'll see that the Coaching Code of Conduct Agreement looks a little bit different this year. It's not just, I agree to sign the Code of Conduct. No, this year we actually have 13 bulleted items. Some keynotes within the Coaching Code of Conduct is, as always, be a good person, treat each other with respect. But the old Coaching Code of Conduct really referred to coach to athlete relationship. Safe sport is all about everybody's environment, whether it's a parent, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a coach, whether it's an official. Safe sport for all. The new Code of Conduct reflects that. It also reflects our duty to report. So if we see something, it is our duty to report. And there'll be more steps and more outlines coming out with that, with a safe sport update. But that's important to recognize that, believe it or not, legally for underage athletes, we have a duty to report. And there is a hotline to do that, and there is an email to do that on the Alpine Canada site underneath Safe Sport. Choose a club affiliation. So you choose your club that you're affiliated with. This is part in due to the clubs coming to us and saying, I can't find my coaches. How do I find my coaches? How do I know if my coaches have completed all the requirements? Great. Well, we made sure that everybody was able to put a club in. You put the club that you're coaching with. If you're not coaching with a club, just affiliate with your province. Educational and risk management credits. Most everybody will have the majority of their educational and risk management credits taken care of annually now. With the safe sport requirement, which is bullet number 8, you get 2 educational and 1 risk management credit automatically every year. Beyond that, if you are above an entry-level trained coach, you just need 2 more educational credits. Rule of 2. This is a big one. We held a national summit with, they brought all the coaches from national team coaches, the high performance leaders. We all got in a room, and this was probably it was literally 6 weeks ago. So 6 weeks ago, we all jumped on a call, and what really stood out to me was we really haven't talked about how the rule of 2 applies in Alpine skiing and the importance of the rule of 2. So really, if we are taking reasonable steps to avoid the one coach, one athlete scenario, we're in a good space. Do you ride the chairlift? Well, yeah, you could ride a chairlift with an athlete. Is that an opportunity for, a coach to berate an athlete? Possibly, yes. But ensuring that you've got athletes in front and athletes behind, that's important. Because if you've got athletes that can possibly listen to what's being discussed, the chair ahead or the chair behind or the T-bar ahead or the T-bar behind, makes it a little bit more harder for coach to say something. The biggie that is a big change, I think, for a lot of clubs and clubs that still run van service, is that participants riding in a van with a single coach. That's pretty much it, especially with underage athletes, is really under scrutiny at the moment. And I know that a lot of clubs are really looking at policies and procedures. How do we deal with that? How do we combine forces with another small club? How do we work to have volunteers present, screened coaches, screened volunteers? That's where that coach and training program comes into place. That coach and training program is for anybody who would like to assist coaching staffs. You could complete your background screening. You can complete your safe sport training. You can get an introduction to coaching course, which is very easy to complete within an hour. So you have the skill set to be able to assist a coach in that role and promote that safe environment. So it's like the old tail gunner position, but now we've actually added the ability for that tail gunner to actually enter into the system in a safer role and help us, meet the rule of two, take the pressure off the coach. We've got a lot of good coaches out there, and I know that as coaches, we all feel that, wow, they're just putting all these rules, they're putting everything in place. It's just a barricade, it's whatever. It's for our own protection too, but one of my key roles on a lot of our task force nationally is I'm the coaching rep, and I'm the coaching rep in the room, and I always raise my hand and say, you know what, we're not all bad. What can we do that we can help, promote or help protect the good coaches and help give them assistance so that they can meet the new guidelines and standard practices that are being promoted nationally. Ethics in coaching. So striving for victory is honorable. Training and competing ethically is a greater victory. So do the right thing, grounded in principles, and really, really supporting that and educating your athletes on it, on how to make that, good decision. We're the role models for a lot of athletes. The NCCP Code of Ethics, the new Code of Ethics breaks down into 3 key elements. So professionalism is one of them, that quality sport environment. The next one is, empowering the athletes. And then the third one is being that leader in the ethical world, and just being able to be aware of our own values and how those can influence our decisions, and really looking to seek to understand the situation. And most importantly, we don't want to cause any harm. Duty of care. Duty of care is pretty important. Duty of care doesn't end with an athlete when they're not the age of a child. I put this up here for this reason, is that they talk about age of experience with the child decreases, but the duty of care is still there. Whether you're a phys coach or you're a coach of an adult athlete, you have a duty of care. If any of the athletes that are within our charge, we have a duty to care for them, just like we would care for another family member. Coach liability, just a quick little risk management here. A duty of care exists. If we fall below a reasonable standard of care, we can be considered as negligent in our position and how we've performed as coaches. So we just want to make sure that we avoid any extra risk and we mitigate as much as possible. Coach liability, we have the legal obligation to provide a safe environment for all athletes. And it comes in the form of written standards, unwritten standards, case law, and common sense. Professional coach. So we want to enable athletes to develop their athletic and fundamental skiing skills first. Assist the athletes in discovering solutions by creating experiences that encourage the development of skills. Within the LTAD and in the cognitive or the mental performance section underneath each stage, we've definitely put some highlights and some key points within that document as to how we can help the athletes along every stage of the LTAD discover solutions on their own. If you think about it, as children, they're learning to walk, they're learning to crawl, they like to pull themselves up. That's their way of figuring out the world and how they fit in it, discovering the solution to pulling themselves up and standing up. They're like, wow, I can do this. Okay. Next thing you know, they're trying to take that step. So we're there to support that discovery environment. And we want to encourage the athletes to explore it, but we also have to guide it so that they don't walk out with a crazy idea and next thing you know, we're picking up the pieces. We want to provide athletes with feedback when asked. So a lot of times coaching, we spot out feedback right away when they get to the end. Really what we want to do is we want to get the athlete to come down and say, you know, hey, coach, I thought I felt this and I thought I did this. And we want them to really think and be engaged in the learning process and in the process of how they're executing their skills within our ski racing environments. When you deepen the learning and you challenge the athletes to become more engaged in the learning, that's when the aha moments begin to come. They start to become a student of the sport, and they're more enabled to problem solve. They're like, wow, okay, I did this. Guess what? It works. So creating that safe and courageous environment for growth experimentation is important. Approachable and smile. Always, always. There's a lot of times the athlete will come down and it'll be like, oh, and you watch the body language. And the body language is they sink down and, oh man, I didn't do it again. And it could be day 5, you're doing the same course, same drill, whatever. But being approachable, smile, and finding a way to find that silver lining to help the athlete work through it, that's important. Emergency action plan. This year's different. Emergency action plans look a little different. They're a little bit more complex. We will be in a permanent state of change. So we'll have our original plan that we had for the season, but we are going to be in a permanent state of change. It's something we hear every day. It's something that we hear every day on the news. It's important to kind of debrief, replan, ensuring to debrief with the athletes, debriefing with the parents, adjusting everything, having that key person that can look over that emergency action plan within your organization is really important. And then there's also that important time for you to take time for yourself to evaluate where you are and make adjustments as required. All coaches should really be striving to instill that love of skiing, even though we are faced with this challenging and changing environment. I looked at, you think about the summer where you couldn't buy a mountain bike anywhere. They were flying off the shelves. The national parks, the hiking trails were full. People are really looking for something to harness, and skiing in the outdoors. It's one of those cool things that we as coaches get to share, we get to promote, we get to, really bring a positive light to the current situation. So we want to bring that to our game day every day when we're out there working with our athletes. We want to lead by that example. We want to show that gratitude, that appreciation for being out on the snow and being able to just be out there being free. We need to plan some free ski time into the program for Skiing for the Soul. I think that's really important to bring up to U16 programs and above. I know that our season was cut a little bit short abruptly last year. We have to remember that, we really can't make up for all the lost time that we may not have skied all summer long. We need to just remember to take that breath, take that moment to breathe, and take that moment to have fun on our skis. That's pretty important. It's part of the process, and us leading that process and showing the athletes that, hey, it's okay to go for a ripper. Yeah, take the whole group on a ripper. Get up to the top and go, you know what? Plan changed. We're not going to go back to the course this run. We're going to go take a ripper over here on this hill. Or you know what? It snowed significant amount. Forget it. We're not slalom training. Get your PAL skis out. It's okay. Yeah, we lost some time on the ground, but it's okay to continue to ski because we're still developing athleticism and skills on snow. Coach learning. Uh, this is pretty big. I don't know how many coaches that are on the line that went to the BC Alpine seminar on Sunday with Tim Gefeller. But spending time developing your own knowledge, skills, and experiences is pretty key and pretty important. Do you need to be in an ACA or PTSO led coach development workshop? No, you don't. There's lots of sporting workshops that are out there that are offered by Human Kinetics, CSI, the Via Sport, the PTCRs are doing a great job of really talking about, the mental performance side, nutrition side, developing your own skill set, learning the craft of coaching. Coaching is an art and it's a science. So there's the art and science, and you can actually learn a lot of the art and the science from other coaches. One of the key group of coaches and coaching experts that I rely on actually reside in the US, and they have a high performance training center, and it's all for track and field. And we talk about speed, we talk about strength, we talk about movement, we talk about video analysis. Video analysis going frame by frame and thinking in terms of how do we actually chunk out the exact movements that we want. That's exactly what we do. But you can learn tips and cues as to how they're looking at the body in that position and time and space. You'd be like, wow, okay, that's the athletic ready position that I'm looking for. Now, all of a sudden, you've tied a dryland activity to something on hill, and making those connections happen. So never be afraid to jump outside of the skiing world to gain some expertise to bring back into your own coaching practice. So here's kind of a little bit of a roadmap, a frequency of learning, daily or very regularly. Set aside some time. I've got my specific web resource feeds that I go to, and my key, I would say 5 to 7 individuals or individual training groups that I'll hit, and I'll usually try to tug into them while I'm on a spin bike. I'll just go through the feeds, I'll read, I'll watch one of the YouTube videos. I just take that time, and I take that time for myself 3 to 5 days a week, and it's 45 minutes each time. It's easy to put in. It's easy to do it while you're having your morning cup of coffee. To me, at this moment in time, the news is kind of still the same. Yeah, I have to know the updates so I can make sure that I'm staying up on top of all the current protocols, etc. But that doesn't mean that I need to watch the news in the morning and the news at night. In the morning, I could take the time in the morning for myself, for my own self investment in my education. Weekly, monthly, participating in webinars, live chats, networking events. Networking events is hard. We don't have those very often anymore. I think the best thing I saw recently was the virtual beer tent. We probably need to somehow institute that where it's a social event where we could put together a few panelists and you come together in an evening, and it's not educational. It's just that getting back to that time when we used to be able to sit down and you walk into après ski and you have a one-on-one conversation with a high performance coach or a sport expert, and it's relaxed. It's not this webinar kind of educational opportunity. So I'm looking into creating that. Any feedback, brainstorming ideas, any speaker topics you'd like to hear from, let me know. Because yeah, the creating that social engagement is good. People are more chatty, let down, and sometimes ask a few more questions. Last topic. I don't know how all of you are feeling at this moment in time as you're getting started. I've heard from a few coaches that I've been on the horn with. I've planned relentlessly, and I planned more than I've ever planned before in my life. And then I just had to cancel my plans. And their voices on the end of the phone they're sitting at that battery charge of 25%. Make sure to take time for yourself. As coaches, we are a lot like a caregiver. We're there, we're supporting athletes, we're supporting the other coaching staff, we're supporting each other, we're supporting the system. Make sure that you take time to fill your bucket too. That's the only way that all of us could be more effective as a team. And I mean a team, Team Canada. How can we be effective, and how can we effectively, engage, ignite the passion, develop the athlete to the next level, launch an athlete into the podium pathway, watch them win a medal at the next games? We have to be, our batteries have to be full as well. Self-care, sunshine, exercise, healthy food, hydration, relaxation, and sleep. I think the last one at the end of the screen there, sleep, gets overlooked quite often. We need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. There's lots of sleep apps out there. I would encourage you to really check into that. Make sure that you are getting your sleep. Exercise, make sure you're getting your exercise. You have time to get your fresh air. As we enter the season, exercise just isn't going to the ski area, putting up a course, carrying the gates, doing that. Exercise means doing something that's enjoyable for you, that really gets your heart rate up more than what you would just setting a course, etc. You need to get that HIIT interval type training to kind of, hit the good endorphins and get the oxygen really flowing in the brain. Assistance and support. Coaches can focus on designing self-care strategies, creating your support system. Your support system should really have in it, those 7 to 8 key people that you can go to, and they be key for one or different thing. Don't make that key person the same person for everything when everything seems to be going crazy in your world. Have your experts and have your expert circle around you that you can rely on when you need to, that you can lean on. We all have to lean on each other once in a while, and it's important for us to be there to support and be that rock. Stress management. So we've got a lot of stressors when we think about coaching. Same thing as when you think about anybody in like the medical field, frontline workers. There's pressure and expectations. There's, pressure and expectations for people to live. Well, we're not looking for people to live, but we still have pressures and expectations from athletes who depend upon us to provide them the right feedback at the right time, the parents for us to make sure that we've got an appropriate program written for their athlete, the safety of it all, making sure that we have all the safety items checked off of there. We've got to, really look after team dynamics. We've got to manage those team dynamics and create that team culture that, creates that cohesion and that environment of acceptance, and, making sure that nobody goes missed. Program support, making sure that there's, funding, there's facilities, there's equipment, there's personnel, that coaches have the opportunity for professional development, but yet again, making sure that you don't forget you have time for your professional development. A lot of times as coaches, we'll sacrifice our personal time and our relationships and it'll put strain on the environment. It'll get hard to keep up with the multiple roles because we'll put our coaching hat when we walk out the door, walk on the snow, coaching hat when we come off the snow, coaching hat when we go home to download video, send it out to the athletes, coaching hat as we plan the next day. All of a sudden, where's the family hat? Where's the spouse hat? Where's the friend social hat? Make sure that, and where's the sleep hat? Where's the regular activity? So just a gentle reminder as we start to ramp up for the season, make sure you're not sacrificing too much of your personal time and that you actually keep some for yourself. So you can work on these stress reducing strategies, which will actually help you be able to better perform your job. If anybody needs me to chat with their club, I can do it. Welcome to carry that bandwagon. Maintaining balance. It's a pretty fitting picture. So just always remembering to be aware. Don't neglect. Don't let the sharks circle in. Make sure that you surround yourself with energy givers so that you can absorb the energy and then you can pass that energy along. And at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to understand our development pathways and where we are on our pathway and how, we can't depend upon everybody to always tell us where to go. We have to solve our own problems as coaches. We have to kind of figure out where we are in the pathway. Look to your mentors to help you, guide you on your pathway. Become an expert in your specific context. Becoming an expert at the entry and development level. There was a conference I went to probably about 6-7 years ago with Dr. Robert Molina, and he's done a lot of work and a lot of research in child development, specifically in the sport realm. And he's in a lot of our materials from NCCP as a cited resource. He's also cited within our LTAD website itself, but his message to us was, as coaches, when we were sitting in there in the room, and there were 65 of us from across the US, from all different sports, he looked at us and he said, you guys are development coaches at this level. It's your job to know what is the cardiovascular limit for your athlete. Where are they on the growth and development? Where are they in their maturation process? You need to become experts in this, not just in your sport, but also in the ancillary areas. Striving to be professional, seeking new knowledge, effectively communicating, maintaining your health and well-being, and being a good teammate. So that really kind of wraps it up, because at the end of the day, this is what we're here for. We're here for the smiles. We're here for the aha moments, as whether they're big or whether they're, they're all aha moments are big to each different level. So that's about all I have. Are there any questions or comments? Open it up. Okay. Oh, thanks, Tish. It's awesome. Thanks, Sue. Oh, awesome, Ro. Yeah, as always, I will put my email up, reach out. And as I mentioned, if you need help negotiating some spare time for yourself, let me know. Thanks, Phil. Oh, great question, Raul. Yes, the presentation, we did record the presentation. So I will post the recording up on the LTD site. So if you click on coach, so you go to LTD coaching, and then you'll see coaching reference materials. The webinar will be underneath there. So it'll be recorded. And I also put up the PDF file for this presentation as well. And as always, send me along ideas, anything you would like to hear for a topic. I have lots of different topics I have on the list, but what I may be thinking about may not be what you need. So I really need to hear from all of you. Awesome. Glenn, really, no. So if you're on the old pathway, it's just the missing components. Yeah. It's just finishing out those missing components that you need. You continue on the pathway. Thanks, Claudio. Thank you, Mark. Take care and have a good evening.